All right, everybody, welcome back to the latest episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. And we have a phenomenal guest here with us today. Theresa Barnabei is here, and I have no co-host, so it's just me and the guest. Hold on to your seats. I know it's very unusual. I have no Greg to wrangle today, so the junior grandmaster himself is not in the co-pilot seat where he belongs. But we're going to have a good time. We're going to talk about the 4 components of a successful career in real estate and really running a successful business. We've got a couple things to say about that. This is probably the first of a 2-part episode with Theresa, so we've got so much to cover. And Theresa's got a great background in real estate. We'll get to that in a second. But first of all, just welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
I am too. So you might be familiar with a mutual friend of ours, anybody that watched Janine Massey's episode, which I love Janine. She was fantastic on the show. And behind the scenes, she thought, you should really meet Theresa. I think you guys would hit it off and have some of the same things to say. And from what we've done in the pre-interview, I would 100% agree. So Theresa, give us an idea of where you came from and kind of how you got into real estate. And it sounds like you really hit the ground running and started breaking records right away, right from your rookie year.
Yes. So I started in real estate on the investing side. Mm-hmm. In the early 80s, I started investing in real estate. And in 1997, I got my real estate license. In 1980, I closed more business than any other new agent in their first year. Mm-hmm. And I skipped a couple of levels of recognition awards. So I went straight to Chairman's Club. And I held that record for many years, being the top agent, until I coached some other agents, and then they became top agents. They broke my record. That's awesome. What we do, right? We give back. So, okay. So I closed, I think it was like 34 units in my first year. I broke about 3.4, 3.5 million. But here's the difference. My average sales price was obviously like $98,000.
Right. This is pre-dot-com bubble, pre-everything.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So I had to close a lot of units to break that record. But what I learned through that process is if we don't have a plan in place, we will run into burnout. Because doing that much business, closing 3-4 transactions a month to kind of, my goal was always to have 20 grand in commission income. And so in about my 3rd year, I hit that, where every year I was making $20,000 a year a month in commissions. Mm. So I always upscaled, I always plus what I did the previous year to get where I wanted to go. And if it were not for systems, I would not have been able to do that. So I guess probably the first thing I should share with you is where the systems came from is I worked 14 years with United Parcel Service before I got into real estate. And they are very, they're known for their efficiency and, everything's timed. And so I think the biggest lesson I learned there is bring whatever you did in your previous career that made you successful to your current career. And chances are, if it made you successful where you were before, it's going to make you successful where you are now.
Yeah. That's an interesting background. It definitely prepares you. It lays a completely different type of foundation. Did you have just a natural knack for people and sales, or did you use those skills and develop them somewhere else? Because I'm assuming that didn't come in handy a lot at UPS.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm in front of people all the time. I am a national speaker and trainer in the real estate industry. I coach real estate professionals and other business professionals. I have a real estate school in the state of Arizona. I'm always in front of people. Mm-hmm. I'm an introvert.
I was wondering about that.
So if anybody's listening to this and says, yeah, but I'm kind of shy and quiet, look, move on. Be an introvert when it serves you, and don't be when it doesn't serve you. And in real estate, sometimes it doesn't serve you because we have to be out talking to people.
Yeah. Hey, I would consider myself an extroverted introvert. In other words, somebody that's learned how to be extroverted, but that extroverted comes out better in certain situations that I've learned. So video is one of them. And then being in front of like a large group of people, right? Like I would rather talk to 100 people than go into a cocktail room of 100 people and mingle. That sounds like death. And it's different for everybody.
You and I are spot on in that respect.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get up in front of 3,000 people before I want to go to a cocktail hour.
Yeah, yeah. I had the chance of being on stage in a Coliseum in Portland, Oregon. We were in front of about 10,000 people, and I was on stage right before Tony Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
And put me in that scenario with 10,000 people in front of me, put me in a room with 11 people I don't know, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, exactly. Like looking for the exit. Like how long do I have to stay to make it look like I'm not miserable? Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
In real estate, you know, the secret to success in real estate is you got to get to know a lot of people so that they get to know and like you.
Mm-hmm.
And once they know and like you, hopefully they'll trust you. And only when they trust you will they do business with you or refer business to you.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, you know, there's times where you're going to shine more. If you're going to shine anywhere, shine in getting to know and like a lot of people. And your business will grow.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, and this was on another podcast, I interviewed a guy who is kind of an authority, so to speak, or an expert on successful introverts, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he made a really great point, which is introverts actually have an easier time building relationships with people because we're just better listeners. And so for anybody out there who's listening that doesn't think you can succeed in real estate, like you think your introverted nature kind of holds you back, it actually doesn't. It's just a matter of kind of finding your comfort zone. And that's what I wanted to talk about with you, because we talk about the 4 components of a successful plan. I would love for you to break down just what the 4 are, and then I want to go into one of them more specifically.
Sure. So any time in our life, we have to plan for 4 specific categories. And that is number 1 and most important is you as a person. So what is your personal time? How do you bucket your time so that you are taking care of you and the people who love and support you? That's bucket number 1. Bucket number 2, in any business, especially in real estate, we have to focus on a building business bucket. Now, most people in the industry will call it prospecting. Most people will call it lead generation. To me, if I keep in my mind that I am in a building business mode, then I kind of go into it with a little different approach. So when I'm building my business, I'm serving people and it's serving me. Mm-hmm. If I'm lead generating, if I'm prospecting, a lot of people have this mindset block that I'm selling.
Right.
And if they think they're selling, oh my gosh, they just like don't want to pick up the phone. They don't want to hand out business cards because they don't want to be a salesperson. Yeah. So build your business in a service industry, because that's what we are. Mm-hmm. Serve people and it will come back and serve you. So number 1 bucket, personal time. Number 2 bucket is building business time. Now, once you go through this building business time, you're going to get to the point where you have to set aside executing the transaction time. Mm-hmm. And most people think that that's the most important. And I'm here to tell you that's secondary to building business, which is secondary to your personal time. Yeah. And then the 4th bucket is what I call after sale follow-up. Because the majority of our business in any given year, per the National Association of Realtors, says that anywhere from 40 to 60% of your business, if you're working it, will come from people who know you, like you, trust you, like friends, family, coworkers, neighbors, and past clients. Mm-hmm. And so you have to have like a system in place to service those people on an ongoing basis so that you can recognize the lifetime value of a client.
Yeah, and actually have it come to pass in your business, which unfortunately most agents don't. I don't think we plan for that very well. We don't think about what the business is going to be like 3 or 4 years down the road when people come back. And we'll get into that in another conversation because I want to go deeper into the after sale part of it. But there were some really good things that I wanted to go deeper with you on the business building time, because you mentioned something in the pre-show about people's comfort zones. And I think a lot of agents struggle with it, and we've all noticed it. You know, if you try to get an agent to do something that's too far out of their comfort zone, even if they push themselves for a while, it doesn't last. And it sounds like you've noticed the same thing.
Yes. So, you know, right now, and especially with the world of the internet, there are so many things being thrown at us in terms of do this and make 6-figure incomes, do this, do this, do this. We can be pulled in seriously 15 to 20 directions at any given time, depending on who we're following, that says, oh, do this, or, you know, the newest, greatest thing. Yeah. And the reality of it is none of that is going to work if you're not comfortable and committed to working it. Yeah. So figure out what it is that is in your wheelhouse that you can actually see yourself doing, that you can get excited about doing. Focus on that. Do that well. Once you do what's in your comfort zone really, really well, then we start stretching a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I was using the example of a podcast. Some people would be like, I can't do a podcast. I don't even know how. Okay, well, if podcast is somewhere in your pipeline, put it on the list and then feed it in slowly, right? Mm-hmm. Don't ever abandon what you do successfully, which is usually what you're most comfortable doing, because you'll do it. There's no magic here, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do it. If you'll do it, chances are you'll be successful at it. So don't ever abandon what you're good at that's currently working for you, but add some components as you feel there's room to add that component. Yeah. And stop listening to the my goodness gracious, just go through your Facebook news feed and, in 5 minutes, you could be introduced to 14 different, free webinars and
online trainings, download this and that. Yeah, it's insane. The Facebook news feed may be the worst thing that happened to Agent Shiny Object Syndrome in the last 40 years or something like that. Yeah, it's insane.
Perfect. So when you're doing what you can see yourself doing and get excited about and committed about, that's what's going to work for you first. So do that. Mm-hmm. Then sit and say, okay, how do I want to grow? What part of my business do I want to build? And then based on your plan, based on your year goal or your business plan, then figure out what's going to feed that growth. Mm-hmm. You have to know what you want and then go after it and figure out how to go after it. And then add them in, but never abandon what's already working for you. There's never going to be a better shining object out there for you than what's already working. Now, if you're like, I'm just starting and I don't even know what works, then create a database of everybody who would recognize your name, get to know and like them. Go build relationships with people who will recognize your name, and then do the simple things that you can actually see yourself do it. If you think an open house is a simple thing and it works in your area and in your market, then go do them. If it doesn't work in your area, figure out what works.
Yeah.
And focus on that.
Well, let's talk about that in a second. I've got one final question for you on this particular one. Before we do, let people know where they can kind of get into your world, and I think you've got a free resource for them.
I do. So I wrote a book called Multiply Your Business. It's called, subtitled, the 10 New Marketing Realities for the Real Estate Industry. Mm. So understanding where the consumer mindset is and how to work within the mindset after they've lost a lot of trust in us. And we're still in rebuilding phase of that trust in those communities that really took a hit because of I call it the debacle.
That's a good name for it.
So I wrote a book, and in it you can get a free download. Everybody that's listening, so you go to multiplyyourrealestatebusiness.com, multiplyyourrealestatebusiness.com, and you can literally download a free book and read it. It's a short book. It's only like 100 pages. It's an easy read, but it's packed with real world examples of things that you can do. Business building techniques, definitely relationship techniques. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're a newbie. I don't care if you're experienced. Just read it because it'll just like move the blinders a little bit. Maybe you can look at some things a little differently.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Love it. And I know Greg is not here to tell people this, but make sure if you want to talk about joining up with EXP under Greg, make sure to book a time with him at bookmcdaniel.com. You can learn a little bit more about what they're doing over there and learn how to have 3 different streams of income in your real estate business. And then, of course, you can go to iTunes or Apple Podcasts and leave us a review for the show, which we'd greatly appreciate. Theresa, this was fantastic. I really appreciate your time. Thanks so much for joining us on this particular episode.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you very much.